Good morning, Kinder families. Today we're going to be doing day 5 of our Unit 7 enrichment support. There is nothing in the packet, so your child will not need the packet today for this lesson. They'll just need this video and some time to listen to the lesson. Today we're going to be reviewing something again that we've already done. We're going to be talking about poetry. Poetry is a wonderful piece of literature that allows us to express ourselves, express our thoughts, our feelings, just the way our opinions, just anything. It allows us to express ourselves in a really creative way. Just like the fiction and nonfiction, poetry has certain elements about it. The first element in poetry is rhyme. Rhyming means that words sound the same. So in a poem, you might hear words that have the same ending. For example, cat and hat. Cat at, hat at. They have the same ending. Or jar and car, how they both say are. So sometimes in poems, the words rhyme. They have the same ending sound. The second element is rhythm. Rhythm is when you're reading something and it kind of goes to a beat. So you could tap on your legs like we've done in class, or you can do clapping. But usually there's a rhythm to it. It's not like I'm just reading like, I like the cat. It's, got a little bit of more of a flow to it, which you'll see in a moment. The third element is repetition. Repetition means that a word or a phrase is being repeated over and over and over and over and over and over again. Just like I just said, over and over and over and over, I'm repeating myself. That's repetition. So in some poems, we might hear the word multiple times in one line or throughout the poem. That is repetition. It is also important to remember that poems are very short. They're not long. So we do have a book of poems, and this book is very big, but each poem is very short. It is not going to be as long as the whole book itself. They're usually small. They don't take up a full piece of paper. The last element is that poetry can help us express our emotions. So poetry can be about love and happiness. It can also be about sadness or anger or just any kind of emotion that we might be feeling. The emotions can change in a poem, but sometimes some poetry has emotions. Just like with fiction, poems do not have to have all elements. They only need to have one for it to be considered a poetry. So now that we're all warmed up, we are going today read poems from the book Poem Depot, Isles of Smiles. Let's go ahead and open up to our first poem. And while I'm reading this, I want you to be thinking about what you hear that makes it a poem. Do you hear rhyming words? Do you hear rhythm? Do you hear me repeat words? Do you hear emotions? Or do you recognize that it's very short? All right, first poem, House Pets. Okay. We have 6 dogs and 7 cats, 3 gerbils and a dozen bats, 2 turtles and 5 chimpanzees, 9 nanny goats and with knobby knees, 10 elephants and 1 gray mouse. I think we need a bigger house. One more time, ready? House pets. We have 6 dogs and 7 cats, 3 gerbils and a dozen bats, 2 turtles and 5 chimpanzees, 9 nanny goats with knobby knees. 10 elephants and 1 gray mouse. I think we need a bigger house. Think for a minute while I read that poem, or after you've heard this poem, of what you heard in it. Did you hear Miss T say any words that rhymed or sound the same at the end? Did I sing, or did I read it in a way that it was kind of flowing like a song, like kind of like a rhythm to it? Did you hear me repeat anything, any emotions, or was it that it's short? Go ahead and think about what you heard. All right, scholars. We know this is a poem because it had words that repeated. For example, cats, bats, chimpanzee, and knee, and mouse, and house. It also had rhythm though. Listen again to how I read it. I am not reading it how I'm talking right now. We have 6 dogs and 7 cats, 3 gerbils and a dozen bats, 2 turtles and 5 chimpanzees, 9 nanny goats with knobby knees. So it's kind of like I'm singing it in a fun little tune. So this poem has rhythm. It also has words that rhyme and sound the same at the end. We also know it's a poem because it's very short. Let's go to the next one and think about what we hear for that poem. Sorry, give me 1 second to find the page. All right, ready? This poem's called Grandpa's Car. My grandpa once had a car as old as Grandpa. It went grandpa, pa, 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 pa. Let me read it again. My grandpa once had a car as old as Grandpa. It went grandpa, pa, 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 pa. Think about what I've read. What did you hear? Were there words that rhymed or sounded the same? Did I sing it when I read it? Like, was I singing it in a tune like the other ones? No. Did it have words that repeated though, or did it have a sound that repeated? Yes, it said pa, 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 pa. It kept repeating that. It was very short. It didn't take Miss T very long to read it. And was there any emotion? There was no emotions to it. It didn't tell me how someone felt. But we know this is a poem because it repeated and it was short. Let's go to the next one. The next one is called Pet Dragon. I walk my big pet dragon. I walk him twice a day. Then spend 10 hours cleaning up. There's not much time to play. One more time. I walk my big pet dragon. I walk him twice a day. Then spend 10 hours cleaning up. There's not much time to play. Think about what you heard. Go ahead and tell somebody next to you, I know this is a poem because, and tell them why you know it's a poem. Okay, go ahead and come back to Miss T. Why is this a poem? What did you hear? With this one, you should have heard again that rhythm, and Miss T was tapping on her leg, so maybe you heard that as a clue. But you also should have heard rhyming words. The word day and play. Day, A, play, A. Do they rhyme? Oh, yeah. So we know this is a poem because it has day and play in it together. Good job. Let's go to the next one. All right, this one is called Homework Shirk. My hound dog ate my homework. Sorry, excuse me, let me try again. My hound dog ate my homework. My kitty chewed it too. A taxi ran it over and a school bus passing through. A flood filled with water, a cyclone tore it up, and then my father mixed it inside his coffee cup. Some birds used it for nesting. They turned it into fuzz, and that is why my homework now looks the way it does. Let's try it one more time. My hound dog ate my homework. My kitty chewed it too. A taxi ran it over and a school bus passing through. A flood filled it with water. A cyclone tore it up. And then my father mixed it inside his coffee cup. Some birds used it for nesting. They turned it into fuzz. And that is why my homework looks the way it does. Think about what you heard and why is this a poem? Go ahead and tell somebody around you this is a poem because, and tell them what it had. Did it have rhythm? Did it have rhyming words? Did it have repetition? Was it short or did it talk about emotion? Go ahead. Okay, so for this one, again, Miss T was tapping along, so we know it has rhythm. It has some kind of beat. I wasn't just reading it how I was talking to you or how I would just read a book. I kind of made it into a little tune. It also had words that rhyme. For example, up and cup, fuzz and does, to and through. So the words that rhyme are a little bit more spaced out, but they're still there. So it had rhyming and rhythm. All right, let's do one more called I Had a Real Bad Hair Day. Let me find it. All right. I had a real bad hair day. Ready? I had a real bad hair day because the weather drizzled. My hair became all fuzzy, so frazzled and so frizzled. I had a real bad hair day. It filled me full of dread until I solved the problem with a hair upon my head. Let me do it one more time. Ready? I had a real bad hair day because the weather drizzled. My hair became all frizzy, so frazzled and so frizzled. I had a real bad hair day. It filled me full of dread until I solved the problem with a hair upon my head. Think about what you heard that made this a poem. Go ahead and tell somebody next to you, I know this is a poem because, and tell them what you heard and why. Okay, come back to Miss T. So again, I was tapping my leg, which means there's some kind of rhythm. We weren't just reading it like I'm talking now. There was a little bit of a beat to it. And it also had rhyming words. Drizzled, frizzled, dread, head. So those words were rhyming at the end. So remember, a poem is a poem because it can have one of the many different elements. It can have words that rhyme, sound the same at the end. It can have rhythm where you read it to a little bit of a beat. It can have words that repeat or are said over and over and over and over again. It can be short, or it can talk about emotions the way that we feel. It doesn't have to have all of those. It can only have one. Sometimes it has more than one like we've seen today. But even if it only has one of those elements, it makes it a poem. That's today's lesson. If you have any poem books at home, please continue this enrichment lesson by reading those books and asking your child to identify what elements of poetry they hear. Or you can also go on to any app like starfall.com and do any of the nursery rhymes or poetries online, poems that you find online, and that would be helpful as well. I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.